Whether you are one of the people who are weirdly obsessed with airspace disasters or avoid the word plane crash like the plague, there is no way that you haven't heard of Flight MH370. The whole airplane disappeared mid-sea, to never be found again. But let's start at the beginning. Flight MH370 was an international flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. At least, it was supposed to reach Beijing on March 8, 2014. 38 minutes into the journey, the crew made contact with air traffic control. The plane was over the South China Sea at the time, but during the call they started moving west, away from the intended path, and air traffic control lost their contact 3 minutes later. The search for this plane began immediately. It started with the Malaysian authorities searching the Gulf of Thailand and the South China Sea. When this proved to be inconclusive, the search began to widen. Eventually, Australian authorities overtook the search and the entire seafloor of the South China Sea was searched. Only after a year was any evidence found, a few pieces of airplane parts that were proved to be from MH370. However, the majority of the airplane had still not been found. In 2018, a private U.S. Marine team called Ocean Infinity contributed to the search by exploring the exact coordinates where the flight had most likely crashed. Again, no conclusive evidence was found. This search was actually the most expensive aviation investigation in history, but the circumstances of this disappearance are so mind-boggling that even the professionals cannot agree on what had happened. The main mystery comes from the fact that there was no distress signal given by the crew when they had made contact with air traffic control. There was no sign of bad weather or mechanical problems within the plane. Before we get on to discuss the theories, we will mention the people on board. Sometimes during tragedies, it's hard to remember that actual living humans had been affected by the event. The flight had passengers from 14 countries and had overall 227 people plus crew. They have all been presumed dead since. Now let's start our investigation. 38 minutes into takeoff, the voice from the cockpit had said goodnight Malaysian 370 and stopped communicating. After that, the plane turned back to Malaysia and then towards the Indian Ocean. The first theory is that there was a lack of oxygen on the plane. This would explain the lack of communication because everyone would have been unconscious, and the plane would have run on autopilot before crashing due to no power. Despite being the official theory of the Malaysian government and also Australian search parties, this particular speculation aroused the question of how? Oxygen doesn't magically disappear, and the plane was inspected with every part in perfect condition. It could be the result of a hijacking incident where a passenger messed with the controls. In fact, there were 2 individuals with fake passports traveling. However, after thorough investigation, they were dismissed as suspects. This did not stop the public from speculating further on the matter. In fact, the former Malaysian Prime Minister is a staunch believer in the fact that the plane had been hijacked remotely. This was first dismissed as being outlandish, but Boeing, the manufacturer of the plane, actually had a remote controlling technology to counter hijacking attempts. The company had installed this after 9/11 when 2 hijacked planes had destroyed the World Trade Center. So, when this system is activated, nobody on board can influence the flight. A report suggested that MH370 had been on this uninterrupted autopilot when it crashed. Another theory suggests that the captain was actually suicidal and that he turned off communication and steered the plane towards the ocean. A Canadian expert had said that it was certain that the event had been a murder-suicide by the crew. But by 2018, this was proven to be wrong. In the search document, it was given that officers had shown no psychological distress, no signs of depression, anxiety, or alcoholism. This was also supported by the fact that when the pilot had called, he sounded no different than other times. Also, the only way he could have committed this murder-suicide was by depressurizing the cabins so that everyone had fallen asleep and then using his personal air supply to stay awake and crash the plane. However, he was 53, and medical professionals say that there's no way he could have survived the depressurizing event. The next theory suggested an electrical fire. This would explain why they had turned back toward Malaysia for repairs, but how did the plane operate for so long while being on fire, and how did it turn again? The other theories were formed by the nature of the parts found. They were relatively unharmed, which suggested that the plane had done an emergency landing on the sea and had gently sunk down, and mostly without damage. It would have caused it to travel a further 200 kilometers, which explained why the search had been fruitless. And this again poses the question of why, how, and when. It does seem like for every theory, there are 10 facts proving it wrong. Even after $200 million spent and the combined effort of 14 countries, the families of the victims have to live without knowing what happened to their loved ones. In Malaysia, the 8th of March is taken to honor the victims and their families by various displays. The search came to an end after 4 years, and no clue about where an entire airplane disappeared to, but a lot of theories. Which theory do you think is the truth? And why? Comment below and we'll pin the best one. Remember, we are holding a weekly contest where you guys will comment any topic that you want to learn about. You think what you want to learn about is too obscure? Think again. If you are the winner we pick on Sunday, we will go to the ends of the earth to gather information and post a crazy good video about it within 15 days. So, do not forget to comment and make sure you like this video and share with everyone who you know is a Sherlock Holmes enthusiast, and maybe they will be able to debunk a theory. Who knows? Please also subscribe to our channel. We make crazy, funny, and occasionally gut-wrenching videos like this one. So do not miss out. I hope you did not cry too much, but we sure did. But next time, we will make you laugh so hard you will squirt water out of your nose. So look out for the next episode of Explain. It's going to be wacky.